Check. Welcome to the Avants podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Nick.
It's a lovely day.
And yet again, we're someplace different. We'll find a home someday.
We're the Rumming podcast.
We decided to, go to the country. And
be visited by dogs.
Be visited by dogs and bugs. And if you see Dan pick up his swatter in the middle of it.
My electric swatter.
Electric swatter.
Just outdoor things.
If you miss and hit me.
I'll tase Nick. It'll be great.
Dan, it wasn't funny after the third time. I don't appreciate that. Well, I don't know when this will be coming out because I think you're going to be gone on vacation a little bit, and so we needed to do.
And you'll be in Monterey, and
I will be in Monterey. God, that interview I'm going to be doing gets bigger and bigger. There's like 4 or 5 guests now, and I'm like, it's with this we learn our guests, individual guests, but it's like having information on 4 people. It's a lot. So
yeah, big sheet.
Yeah, so.
It's hot out. Anyway,
Dan and I haven't done us podcast.
Yeah, it's been a while.
What started with Rain City? Dan and I just sort of chatting and talking and BSing and having a good time, and we thought this would be a good time to do an extra one and kind of have some fun.
Yeah, we were talking about we were talking about like ideas for the show, and because we don't want to just talk about nothing. Obviously, that would be boring. Maybe.
Yeah, show about nothing. That would never work.
But we were talking about our favorite road trip stories.
Yeah.
Because we have been on road trips and road tripping our whole lives, either with our families or by ourselves or with the rallies. We have a lot of them.
I realized when we started talking about this, I've never taken a road trip by myself. I've never
Really?
just driven, inspired by you a lot, but I have never had the time or to just go and have that adventurous spirit. So
yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit because it's different than I thought it would be. And more fun in some ways, not as fun in others, of course. But our Carter Automotive Gear Tip of the Week is kind of inspired by that. I'll share a solo road trip story and how it worked. So I was road tripping in my GTR by myself, and I was going to Arizona again, and I was going the long way. So, of course, I stopped in Moab because the roads to and from.
So you went to Nebraska first. And then,
basically, yeah.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, okay.
I think I went through Oregon to Detroit Dam, and then I went out that way, just kind of finding my roads as I went. I had a rough route, but I was like, I'm going to look at the map each day and see how the weather is and go from there. And that's kind of the nice thing about a solo trip is they're like, yeah, you can just kind of play it if you want. I had a tent in the back, so it was like, if I need to stop somewhere and camp out of the GTR, I will. And I intentionally did in a few places. I stopped in Jackson Hole, and I stayed at the KOA there.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize, planning ahead here, really nice weather. It was summer. It was still about 30 degrees at night there. So luckily they had a lot of open spaces at that KOA.
Imagine that. Yeah.
I actually jumped into a cabin that night. Like I was like, do you have any cabins left? These little hole in the wall cabins? Sure enough.
Something with walls and heat.
Yeah, walls and heat was great. And no bathroom. Like they had nice bathrooms there, but there was no like bathroom in it. It was just like a little tiny thing. It was perfect though. But anyway, down in Moab, I had reservations because Moab in the early months and in the late months, even when it's starting to get just a little bit cooler, is just peak.
You're talking early in the year and late in the year.
Yeah, early, when it's not too hot because it's popular year round, but in the middle of the summer, there's not a lot of hikers that be like, 100-degree day, perfect, let's go do arches. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was I think it was September, and no, it was June. And I was going into Moab, and I had reserved my campsite ahead of time at the KOA there. Perfect if you're car camping, by the way, and you're like, everybody's like, that's not camping, it's a KOA, you have a pool. I'm like, yeah, but I was in a GTR and I had a tent. I'm not going to go freaking up a Forest Service road.
You have to be the only person that's ever been in a KOA with a GTR.
Oh, no way.
Like, who else is going to camp out of a car like that?
Yeah, I'll admit I do not see a lot of them.
Yeah.
But if you've ever blown all your money on a supercar and you don't want to spend all your money on hotels, this is a great way to do it. It's
bidding
a great
on
way to road
eBay
trip.
at night. Yeah.
Anyway, but to get to the tip, so I get there and like I said, I planned ahead and I had reserved my campsites a couple weeks in advance, and which is not enough time now. By the way, the tourist season even since then has gone up so much that you'd probably need about a month out to get a campsite in Moab in a good season. And so I get there, and sure enough, I go and check in. I've got my campsite ready, and I asked for one that was like kind of just kind of close to the bathrooms and off to the side. So, because I'm just going to be going in and out. Like, I'm not really staying there. I'm just sleeping and leaving. And I get there, and I go in, and there's a line of people. A lot of motorcycles, a lot of off-roaders, because it's Moab, right? And the people behind me, 2 guys, a father and a son, were riding, didn't have a campsite. No campsites available. too late to get a reservation in the parks. Like they're just like, you can go way out, but you're riding a ways that time of year. You're going to be way out of Moab. And then another woman by herself, also no campsite. So I just talked to friends. It's like, I'm just coming and going. It's like, as long as you guys aren't going to keep me up till 1 a.m. partying, it's like, you guys can just stay in my site. Like I don't have a camper. I have this tiny car compared to every truck here and a small tent. And like, there's more than enough room for us to put up some tents and you guys just come and go. They're like, dude, we're hiking and riding. Like we're going to be asleep by like 10. I was like, perfect.
You're riding all day. You're going to be tired. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you are a very light packer and there's like no room to stay at the inn, as they say, check out the KOAs. If you have camping gear with you, this is a great way. Like even a tiny little tent, like those, you've seen those REI pack down tents. Throw one of those in the back of your car on a road trip and you will always have a place to stay. Because when you have a very small footprint, all you have to do is go to one of those and just ask nicely. If you are not the partying type, and maybe even if you are, you'll find plenty of people to hang out with. Just find your group and be like, hey, I don't have a place to stay. Do you guys care? Like, I'll pay you to stay with you. Like, here's $20. I mean, campsite's like $35 there. And they'll just stay with you. And as long as you let the front desk know, they're 99% of the time totally fine with it. And that's so I had 3 people stay at my campsite, all awesome. Father and son rode. I think, I wonder if I remember right, they were from North Carolina. And they were riding KTMs on a cross-country road trip. And they're
comfortable.
Yeah. One of them was a bigger one, but I mean, the other one I think was like 450. Oh. I was like, oh, that sounds awful for a long road trip.
Wow.
Yeah, just pinned out there because it's 80-mile-an-hour roads.
Oh yeah,
so
thanks.
Yeah, you're re-gearing everything. But anyway, they were loving it, and then the other one was this woman from Quebec riding by herself, and her and her boyfriend were supposed to do this trip, and she had a dual sport, and he had a dual sport, and they were going to do this thing. Well, they broke up. And she spoke English with a very heavy French accent, and she's enough to say, "Can I stay too?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't care." It's like we're just hanging out, and so I was like, "You're just riding by yourself?" And she's like, "Yeah, I was supposed to go with him, and then we broke up." And so I said, "Sorry, Mom. Fuck it, I'm going anyway."
Good for her, yeah.
So she got on her bike and went, and she had been all over, and she had the most amazing photos. She did Cody, Wyoming. She went to the rodeo. She'd been like everywhere. It wasn't like just a straight trip to Moab. She'd gone the long way on a Suzuki 650, not a V-Strom 650. Yeah, okay. like the larger dual sport. Yeah. So perfect for her. 'Cause she was only like, she's probably 130 pounds, so big bike for her. And we just split the campsite for the last 2 days. I mean, they chipped me $20 a night, which basically covered my campsite because I paid $35 and they both gave me $20.
Well, even better.
And I was like, sweet, $5 for food. And they were like, works for us, dude. And we all sat around a campfire and shared drinks and met great people. And
so just planning ahead is the more key thing.
Plan ahead, yeah. But if you get stuck and you don't, like, you're probably not out of luck. Just being nice and being in a spot where it is open and okay. Like, you don't want to go knock on hotel rooms. That's weird. But if you're in an open camping area, like, as long as you have a small tent,
especially in Wyoming,
you got
you
options.
Get shot.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's such an easy way to go, and it also gives you a lot of freedom in a road trip because when you're worried about money, a lot of people say I can't, like, especially with the price of gas, like, and the price of hotel rooms. Over the last 10 years, even I've noticed, I used to be able to stay pretty comfortably at cheap hotels that were clean. For I think the first time I stayed in Moab, I stayed in this little place in town, and I paid $30 a night, middle of town. And it was just nothing special, don't get me wrong, but this was not a roach motel. This was just a little tiny motel. I was like, I'm just hiking and, like, exploring. I don't need a place to do except shower and leave.
Now, did you have, with this road trip, did you have a plan, or were you just sort of going, I'm going to drive here, and then when I get there, I'll figure out where I'm going to drive next?
Yeah, the only places I had actual solid hotel rooms to stay at was in Manitou Springs, which is just by Colorado Springs, because I was going to Pikes Peak. And I wanted a place that was close to the downtown area, and I just happened to find a good price on an Airbnb, and because I wanted to wash the car, things like that, give myself a place to, like, really unload and have a little space. So that, and then in Arizona, when I was down in Jerome, I wanted to stay in Jerome, so I stayed up there because I wanted to explore the town for a day with that, and I wanted to have wine and not drive anywhere for a day.
Of course.
Yeah. And so that was the only 2 places, though. The rest of the time, I just winged it the whole way, and it actually bit me in. One night in Jackson Hole, so I had the KOA, those, and then I didn't have a third night, and they sold out. Like, they had, like, a group of people come through, and I thought I would just be able to just get another one, but no, they were, like, totally sold out, and it was a massive group. I don't know what group it was.
And you asked nicely?
Well, I was trying to get ahead of my way out, and someone for the pass, I ended at this Airbnb, but it was like kind of a hostel situation. Where it's like just a bunch of bunks and stuff.
Hostel,
and
not hostage?
Not hostage,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of weird, though, because, I mean, like, if you've been out to Wyoming, things are farther apart than they appear.
Yes.
One house is a mile away from the next house. And so I ended down this like long gravel road in the GTR in like this really nice cabin, but like this family was just running it and they had all these bunk rooms. And I was like, I don't care. I'm just going to get up, shower, and leave. But it was kind of funny. So
adventure, good story.
Yeah.
Good fun.
It was a ton of fun. I recommend everybody road trip alone a couple times, just for the fun of it. If you have that kind of freedom, or I should say, I wouldn't let it stop you. I'm not saying I recommend it, but I wouldn't let it stop you, because what I've found from road tripping alone many times is you're never really alone. As long as you are willing to talk to people, you will always have friendly people to talk to and people to go do things with. I mean, if you go hiking, you'll, especially anywhere, that's typically what I do when I road trip, is I go find a place I can explore, whether it be hiking, driving, whatever. I always run into nice people.
Yeah.
So
I love the Jackson Hole area, obviously, but
yeah,
you know, I miss it dearly.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's it takes a lot to put something together. I think I've just always been a person I'm a social butterfly, and so I mean, I work alone at my house and I'm alone with myself, and it's like, I mean, being in a car with I don't know what I would do. And I mean, I have the adventurous spirit, but I think I can always find somebody, usually you or somebody, that's like, let's go explore this, or let's go find this. So
let's go to California in a day. It'll be great.
Oh God, that was the worst thing we've ever done. Ever done.
Okay, we had fun on that one road.
No, yeah, we had fun, but it's just like the idea. I mean, if you don't know, Dan and I had to attend a wedding. God, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we drove from Seattle to Orange County
in one shot.
One shot, which we should have never done.
No, that's a 2-day drive. It's ideally like a 4-day drive, but you can do it in 2 days comfortably if you're pushing it, and like that's a steady pace. But 1 day is way too long, even with two drivers. It just is. That
back, well, it's I-90, or not I-90, but from Sacramento to L.A. On the backside of the mountains. There.
Oh yeah.
God, that's just. I mean, you look at the GPS, and you're like, it's got to be broken. It just keeps going straight. Like, there's no
no turns.
There's no turns. Something has to happen here. So
when you get on I-5, it's like, next turn, 475 miles.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's just a bend in the highway.
I think that's the only time we've taken a road trip where we haven't really taken back roads, like where we just basically got on the freeway and went, and which was more of a. I still laugh about that. We went hiking. We were hiking all day, and then we went back to the hotel, and I jumped in the pool, and all the water went over me, and I was like, God, I must have done a really hard hike. Like this, I'm so sweaty. And one of our friends is like, asshole, this is a saltwater pool. It's like, yeah, I knew that. I knew that. So, yeah, I totally knew that. So
that was funny.
When did you take your first road trip, like in your first car?
I mean, besides the ones I've done as a kid with my family, my first one was in 2009. What year did I get my Z06? 2010? That was really what sparked it, is I had my Z06, my C6 Z06, not my C7. And that car was just so much fun to drive and so comfortable. Even though, stiff suspension and, manual transmission, it's a pretty lazy car to drive when you want it to be. Like, if you're not trying to wring everything out of all the time, you can be lazy with your gear selection. At the time, I got relatively good mileage for what it was. Like, it's got so much torque. It's like, do you want to drive in third or sixth? Whatever. It'll just go.
Okay.
And so it's easy to drive for long distances. The seats are terrible in the corners, actually. Some of the worst seats ever, but they're really soft. So if you just want to hang out in your car all day, I actually found it quite comfortable. And that was just a fun car because, you finally get out into those back roads that you've always wanted to drive, and you finally had a reason to go find those back roads. So I was like, this car can eat them up. And so that was really when I started doing it myself.
I've had multiple people ask us as far as like, how do you guys find your routes? And I'm like, literally, Dan goes on Google Maps, and I'm learning to do it now, and just goes, okay, here's a point. Where's the roads in between? What does it look fun? Does it not?
Yep.
And you've talked about this before. You've emailed YouTubers and said, have you ridden this road? When's the last time? People have even gone out and ridden roads for us to see if it's still open.
Thank God for GoPro,
right?
Because it seems like when GoPro came out, everybody had a reason to use one to record their rides.
Yeah.
Motorcyclists love GoPros. Thank God for them, because even the cruiser guys who just ride them slowly, they're still going at a pretty good pace. They put out great videos, and they have terrible music, and they can't edit for crap, but thank God for them, because those have been my savior. I love those guys, because they'll record anything with their Harley group rides. And it's great, because then I'm like, because those guys know every road, man. Cruiser guys, like big bike cruiser guys, gold wingers, those guys know every road ever.
That's on my list. I want to rent a cruiser like that, and I want to go to Sturgis sometime. I think that's because spending as far as time, with the Monkey and the 450, like I can't spend a ton of time on a bike. I have to get off. Like, but I think having something like that would be fun. Something with a cup holder. A motorcycle with a cup holder. radio.
I run into those guys on my trips who are on like super sports, 1,000 double Rs, and and I'm just like, you guys are nuts. I've had all those bikes and they're great, but like a day of even like 300 miles, I'm spent.
Yeah.
I can't imagine doing it day after day after day. It's just the seating position. It's not the bike. It's just, it's so good in the corners, but when you've got, the truth is on every road trip, I try and make as few as possible. You still have those multi-hour sections where you're just holding. And I can't tell you how great it is to have air conditioning and a cruise control on those sections.
Especially on a bike. I remember when I had the R6 in Spokane, we'd go to Coeur d'Alene for swimming and stuff like that. And even that ride, it's like 30 miles, 30.
Yeah.
You get off the bike and you're just like, I feel old, and I know I'm not, but yeah.
Yeah, if you ever look at those guys and realize how ripped the racers are, it's because their core strength is so high and their back muscles are so strong because they have to hold in those positions for so long.
It's the wrist too. Like that's that's the biggest thing.
It wears on muscle groups you don't normally use, so it's really hard to ride a sport bike. But it's really rewarding though.
Things like that. Yeah.
I used to tow my bikes to places and then ride them. Like I would go over the pass. I'm like, I don't want to just sit on 99. It was like, oh, I want to go on the pass. I'm like, yeah, that's great, but the really good roads are off the pass. Like, So
what did you tow it with? What do you mean?
I've had trucks over the years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Throw them in the back and take off a sport bike and then go for a ride.
Okay. I see what you're saying now. Okay. There are some really good roads over there. So
yeah,
I get that.
Yeah. So, I mean, what's your favorite road trip story?
The one that stands out the most is a little bit of a backstory. So, I've always been a BMW guy. My family's always been a BMW guy. My dad had a 535i a Mola red with gold BBS wheels in 1985, and loved that car. And he had decided that he was going to trade it in, and he found a 92 735 in Spokane that had come out of Montana, and the guy had bought it, put everything in it, radar detector, phone, all that, and literally it had never seen wet or winter. It had been kept in the and so we decided as a family that we were going to go to Bozeman and take that car because it was fun. And this was, if you remember, I don't remember what year it was, but Montana used to not have a speed limit. And if you got pulled over, it was an environmental fee of like $15 or something.
Yeah, reasonable and prudent.
And, I'm sure I'm not the only person that have this. My mom knows this story. It's like my mom was in the back and I was up front and we were having a great time and she fell asleep. And so then the minute mom went asleep, the car started to go faster. And I think, and as a younger kid, like I was probably 13, 14, I was, really starting to get into cars. And so we were having a great time and my dad was, pushing the car. And I think we got up to about 150. And,
which in Montana is reasonable and prudent.
Yeah.
You're just eating a lot of gas.
Prudent but in a giant super, luxury sedan.
Next turn, 30 miles. Yeah.
And I hear my dad go, "Oh my God, what is that?" And a guy went blowing by us in a 92 NSX in a cowboy hat. And he went blind, like we were standing still. You could still hear the country music he was playing and see his straw hat. And I remember like thinking, oh my God, I want to do that. Like this is what I want to do. Because there was the memories. My parents always took me places. I've been, I think the only child that has a better life than me growing up is Ashley's son, Bo, right now. Bo has a better life than that. But
Ashley from Haggerty.
Ashley from Haggerty. That was the first road trip I remember. Like I remember we had a big Suburban. And I remember sitting in the back and playing with my toys, but I never looked. But that was like, I was attached to the road. I was watching what my dad was doing. I was looking at the speedometer, seeing how fast we were going. Because as a kid, the first thing I was going to do is go back to school and be like, I did 155. And my dad's like, you can't tell your mother this. You can't tell anybody this. It's like there was no speed limit, but I know mom wouldn't have been. But that's like my very first like road trip memory of like something that we did, it wasn't about playing in the back. It was about being focused on the car and seeing what the car can do and feeling the performance. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I loved exploring with my parents, and road trips were sort of essential because it was expensive for a family of 5 to fly, and we would just drive places because that was a cheap way to get around. And we would camp or whatever. We were camped outside of Yellowstone, and so I always loved those memories growing up. I was pretty young when we did most of it. But it was always like, it was the exploring aspect that I loved. And so that was, I don't know, so much of my time in my teens and my 20s was just getting to where I needed to go, that it became sort of an essential for me to feel. I felt like I was missing out on so much. And after the first road trip, I realized I was. And it just became addicting because there's just so much to see.
Well, I mean, it's funny because during that time in my life when my dad had the 7 Series, like I remember we went into REI and nobody had done this. Like I'm sure people had, and we got roof racks and bike racks for the top of this car. And the guy at REI thought we were crazy because, I mean, it had gutters, and that's the old school
BMWs.
ones. Yeah, but I mean, and the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you got like a little M." And my dad's like, "No, it's a 7 Series." He's like, "You're gonna take a 7 Series and put like 3 bikes up top? Are you sure this?" You know, and I remember being so excited because I mean, we bought the fairing, and then my dad let me put all the stickers, like you know, bike stickers and stuff like that. But like, and we took that car everywhere with the bikes, and because we did a ton of bicycling when I was a kid. Like, I think there's one year we did close to 3,000 miles on the bikes, just riding the bikes. We'd take the car somewhere like you do, take the bikes off and go riding. We did Highway into the Sun. We've done the
a road.
San Juan Islands and things like that. The only problem with that road is if you're going to go do it on a bike, you have to get up so early because they want you up the pass before the pass really opens with cars. So, but I mean, that's like some of the...
That's going to the Sun Road in Glacier National Park, by the way. That's the road for our listeners. If you guys haven't done that, it should be on your bucket list. Don't expect that to be a road you go rip it up and drive on. It's just, it's too busy. There's too many bicycles. It's not,
especially in a car.
Yeah, you don't want to do that in a national park anyways. We've said many times on this show, but you don't speed through national parks. The tickets are massive.
Yeah.
But if you want to just go see a beautiful road, it's absolutely worth it. Anyway,
but I think that's my point. Like, I think, it became about, to me, instead of going, okay, we're going to go riding somewhere, it became about getting to that point. Like, it was fun when we got there, and I always had fun, but it was about, going down the road with, and my dad still has this photo on his desk, and it's him and I, and we're sitting on the deck lid of the 7 Series. My mom took it in bike tights, and the bikes are up top, and it's just like, and I know that's a memory that's close to him because he still keeps it on his desk. He has very few photos. I think it's the only photo he has of me on his desk. There's a couple of the dogs, which I get, but other than that, so, But I think that's my first real memory in a car. And I didn't do a ton of road tripping. Like I said, I would go. Like we when I had some friends when I lived in Spokane, we'd drive over here for hot import nights and things like that. But I think when I really started like driving again and getting into road tripping is when we met. Like when we started to figure out like, Seamont and figuring out, where we could go and how many. Well, you would figure it out, and I would just sort of be the guy who went with you. But so.
Oh, all those back roads are so fun. I remember there's the Lassen Volcanic Scenic Byway is a major route. It's a major byway that almost everybody knows about that goes through eastern Oregon. If you're looked into road trips at all, you've looked at in the Oregon area, a lot of people will refer to that. So it's not a very hard one to find. But what is hard to find is the old Lassen Volcanic Scenic Byway, which is now bypassed into the new byway.
Is that the one we found on the first year we did Seamount when we only had 4 cars? Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
The grasshopper attack.
Yep. Yep.
So there's this road. This is one of my favorite memories from a road trip. This is one of my favorite finds ever on a road trip. Is I kept looking at roads, and I found this one where Google Maps Street View stopped. Like they had gone to it and turned around and come back. And it usually means the road is dead end, closed, gravel, whatever. They won't go for the whole section. But then I found one video, one guy doing this road, and I was like, that whole thing is paved. That whole road is paved, and it was a highway. And by highway, I don't mean like interstate. I mean like it's 2 lanes, it's paved. It was a scenic byway.
There's a couple of cattle guards up top, but that's about it.
Yeah, there's cattle guards there, and there's potholes. And then you realize that nobody takes this road anymore. Hunters, snowmobiles in the winter, because it turns into a snow park, but it's still paved, and it's that high elevation dry snow, so it doesn't get destroyed like our roads up here. There's just not enough traffic on it. So we found this byway. Poor Davis, because he had his GT4.
We had Kevin's white California. We had the Maserati, your Corvette, and Davis's GT4.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we looked like we drove through a war zone.
Well, because first of all, we came through that one famous little town in Oregon that there was I forgot what had happened. There was like a. It got bought by some cult or something.
Yeah, they tried to poison Bend.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, they tried to poison the water supply. Crazy Netflix documentary on it. Anyway,
and we come out of that
Antelope.
Antelope. And I remember we came and we took this turn and like. Bless them, like the people that were with us, because they really trusted us, and they should have, but. It was questionable when we turned onto that road because we kept going across like cattle grates and things like that. And then like it was weird because we were kind of in like you said, volcanic and short grass. When we came to this area, it was just nothing but trees. Like literally it just started. And you could just hear everybody on the radios going, we're going for it. Let's do this. Let's see what happens. And we went blasting through. In fact, we did it the second time. Remember, that's where all the photos came from, the great photos that Carl took. But
yeah.
We stopped. We made our first stop, and it looked like you and Davis and pretty much Kevin's car looked like you had hit animals. There was so much red, like, bug goop and on the front of your car, like.
Yeah, and so that became the rule of we've said this rule before we even started the rallies, is that everybody needs to carry microfiber towels and glass cleaner, because you're going to go through an entire can in the 4 days going down there. And it was one of those, like, I needed it to see. Like, I couldn't just use the wipers. It was just going to turn into a soup.
Because of you, so Davis now carries a wash bucket, a hose. That was the best thing. We all got down to Bend that one night, and we had washed our cars somewhere. And the next thing I know is we look outside the back of the hotel, and Davis has convinced them to, like, use their spigot, and is out there hand washing his car.
He has an expandable bucket, his own soap, his own mitts, his own towels. It was great. Thanks, Griot's. Griot sponsored us for
right?
that. Yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think another good memory that I have on a road trip, and I think it was the year after that when we had a little bit bigger, and Boreog and everybody was with us, and we stopped in Bend. And if you've listened to the show, you know that we have a tendency to find places. We always find a car wash, and so many of our good stories come from that. And we stopped in Bend, and we took all the cars over there, and it turns into everybody helps everybody, which is fun.
Yeah.
But
assembly line, clean, get through. Yeah.
And I'm gonna have you tell the California story after this, but we caused a scene, not because we were doing the route, but you had all these supercars at this small little place, and then people started showing up, like to see the cars, and we were there long enough that people could go home and get their people, and some lady had gone home and gotten her son and came, and this is a little bit of a life lesson, and the kid was a big car guy, and he was a little shy, and I think he approached Jason first, which was probably the best person to approach.
Yeah.
And Jason let him sit in the car and all that, and then he kind of started working his way around everybody else, and we ended up getting home, and she tracked us down somehow and sent us the nicest letter about how,
it was from our stickers. We had the RCS Rally stickers on, and so she found us pretty quickly online and sent us an email. That was really fun. That was rewarding.
But I think that's the one thing I've learned is the fact that we always try to find these little towns, stop and talk to these people because it's incredible. The places we've had lunches and sat out there and you have conversations with people. That's the fun part. I think it's fun to go on the rallies with people. We have great stories. We have back windows of Aston Martins going away. We have where's Joe and with birds in the grill of his car and
deer in Kevin's car.
Yeah.
Oops.
We don't talk about that, especially. Yeah. But we were in where was it?
We were in Quincy, California.
Yeah.
And which is we were sort of on our way to Mammoth. Yeah, Mammoth.
Yeah.
And little great roads coming in and out of there. If you don't get stuck behind a dog is coming to visit. If you don't get stuck behind a massive truck, this is some of the best driving roads out there.
Yeah.
And even then, people are, as long as you're not a jerk, typically actually kind of get out of your way. It's kind of nice.
Yeah.
When they see a group. So, bingo. Hey, don't knock over the video camera. Come here. Good boy. Okay. Sorry about that, listeners. Anyway, just dog things. Hey.
We're dog people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we pulled into this small town, and then the police show up, not because we're in trouble, to come say hi.
Yeah.
And then
the whole town.
The whole town just kind of showed up.
It wasn't a big town, but
no,
it was yeah.
Oh yeah. And then it was the next day, you're like, oh, you're those guys in the cars.
Yeah. Which you can get a bad reputation from people, but we've always been really good about the fact that people have been like, you guys are great. We've had other people come through that have just been absolute, not there at that place, but. There's some people that tend to be assholes.
Yeah, we always say our number one rule is don't speed into small towns. You never speed into a small town when you're on a rally. It's just
people will track you down.
Oh yeah.
Didn't you have some lady try to come find you guys? You were driving through Idaho or something?
That was Enterprise, Oregon. We were driving south from Hell's Canyon Lookout, and we were actually driving south from Lewiston, Idaho. And if you go out of Lewiston, everybody thinks of the Lewiston grade, the hill climb out there, as the thing to do in Lewiston, and it's not. It's really beautiful. Everybody should do
the old grade because nobody's on that.
So and that's beautiful. It's awesome. But right at the bottom of the Lewiston grade is the police station. So yeah, the old grade is what we're talking about.
Yes.
So you really can't go nuts anyway. Not that you would. It's just even driving it at speed is pretty nuts. If you just stay to the speed limit and hit the corners, you're going pretty good. But if you go south out of Lewiston to Enterprise, Oregon, that's some of the best driving roads in Oregon, period. And there's a ton of great driving roads in Eastern Oregon, but there is a section coming out of there that is straight as far as the eye can see. I swear, you literally lose the road on the horizon. It's so long and so straight. You're just Is the speed limit 150? I think so.
Yeah, I saw 150 there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 50, not 150. And, obviously there's wildlife. But even then, there's like this wide break on the road. It's not even like there's trees lining the road. You actually have a wide break on both sides. It's kind of a weird road.
There's a road like that on Highway 2 when you come out of the gorge there, like you head up to Pateros and stuff like that. You come out of the gorge and it's really straight and flat too.
Yeah, it's no elevation changes. You're just going. And so we were moving at a pretty good pace, to say the least. And there was one car, this old minivan, like an old Chrysler, I think. And so because we're in a group and we can see literally like 10 miles in front of us, we're like, oh, there's no cars coming. So it was like all vehicles became one, and we just kind of moved over and passed her without slowing down.
Vigorously, yes.
Vigorously. And so, and as we pulled up into Enterprise, of course, we immediately all slowed down, really. Like there's a cop, the speed trap right at the edge of town, and like we all just cruised in at a normal speed. Nobody's causing any trouble. Cars are quiet. Like we don't cause trouble in small towns. We really don't. And man, she came into town just freaking out. And poor Gaurav has his window down, and she's just going off. And he's like, and then,
that's when he should have played the card. I'm sorry, I don't speak English, man.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, and she comes over and is yelling. The police come over, and they're like, just slow down a little out of town. They're like, thanks for not speeding into town. We're like, no problem. We'll be on our way. And he's like, cool. That was it. And he was like,
you're always going to find the Karens of the world.
Yeah.
The Kevins,
we weren't close to her, obviously.
No.
Nobody's cutting anybody off or tailgating anybody. It was actually a very safe pass. It was just a quick one.
I think
it was an efficient pass.
That happens on road trips too. As you get into the moment, you get fun, and you may end up making a pass that's not the best time or the best place. And I mean, we've all done it. Yeah, and so you just have to be really careful about that. But yeah, have you ever road tripped on the East Coast? Like, have you done anything over there?
Not extensively. I've gone through kind of the back way out of Florida when I got the Land Cruiser, and I've done a little bit of stuff exploring around where my sister is in Vermont.
Mm-hmm.
She's in Maryland, but she's in that section where it's like Maryland, West Virginia, like that whole area is really, really close together. So you can hit 3 states in a couple hours, So I've done a little bit of exploring around there, and it's all really pretty over there. The only thing I found is some of the roads are narrower. The back roads are more populated. There's more population density on the East Coast. And that's kind of, I've always wanted to do the Tail of the Dragon. I haven't done that yet, and I will.
I want to do that on a bike, though.
Yeah, I really want to do that on a bike. It's dangerous on a bike, but yeah.
Well, I'm thinking monkeys.
That would be fun, actually.
Right? Yeah.
It's not like actually, from everything I've seen, is like there's very few spaces unless you're a really, really skilled rider to really ring it out. So
I wouldn't want. I mean, there's so many videos of people sliding off of there.
Oh, there's a whole tree with like body work from bikes just nailed to it because everybody goes off in that corner. I don't know. That's yeah. The more I look over there, and I keep wanting to, and I know there's rallies that go over there. It's the population's the problem, and that's just inevitable. I tend to go when
fines are higher too.
Especially, is it Virginia? I think's the crazy tickets.
It's I believe so. Yeah. Yeah.
But and it's not that I don't want to. It's just that I know that my options are more limited. Like over here, you can go if you road trip from here, especially through Idaho and especially Utah and Eastern Oregon, you can go like a whole day and not really get into any traffic, any towns.
Yeah.
And it's not hard. It's just there's so much to explore where there's not a lot of people. So your risks are lower. Your fun is much higher because you don't have to slow down as much. The only problem I've ever really run into is like I've been really, really close to running out of gas many times.
Well, yeah, but that was because the GTR wasn't tuned right and you were burning fuel at
I ran out of gas
rates.
at a gas station.
Yeah.
In Colorado once. And I know you're not supposed to. Don't write me. But I had to put the car in neutral down the hill because I was sputtering downhill. So I put it in neutral.
Not supposed to put it in neutral?
In a dual DSG, you can't put
okay.
Yeah, and so I put it in neutral to roll down the hill. And I was like, well, it's either this or walk. Because it was literally like I had that off the gas and it was still sputtering like down the hill.
Okay.
And then I pulled in. I'm so lucky. There's literally a gas station off the exit. And like it was such a steep downhill that I could roll through the exit under the overpass and into the gas station with enough speed.
Okay.
Thank God a GTR, right?
Yeah.
And so as I come down this hill, I'm like, please don't be any me here because I'm blowing these stop signs. And I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I'm like, sure enough, nobody's there. So I as soon as I got off the exit and through the stop sign, I gunned it just to get enough momentum. And sure enough, I rolled in and the car died. Completely dead, completely out of fuel, would not run. And it was like, I wasn't tuned for altitude correctly. And so I learned from there. I bought a wrench on that road trip. So thank God, actually a forest ranger let me at Pikes Peak lent me a wrench to pull the negative terminal off and reset it at the top. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
have one. And then, of all the stupid things I didn't have. And so anyway, I bought one. But yeah, I rolled out of gas in Colorado into a gas station in a GTR.
Where was it? What is that road? It was out of Tahoe. We all went up, and like I about got ran off. We were in the middle of nowhere. 89A, and we had planned it where we were spacing people out in like 3 or 4 minute sections.
Yep.
And I was the last guy to go, and I start to go, and out of nowhere comes a Porsche and a Ferrari down at me, like in the wrong lane. They were doing exactly what we were doing, but the opposite, and we were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because when you get to those areas where they're close to major cities, if you think you're in the middle of nowhere, car guys know roads like that. The local car guys know roads. Everybody knows Salton Basin Road here. Out to Highway 2.
Yeah.
Out toward Salton Basin, out of Salton. Everybody knows. They call it High Bridge Road, but it's the one that's between Clearview's that north between Woodinville and Snohomish. That back section there, which is getting overpopulated now, but every rider around here knows that road. And say High Bridge, we're like, oh, we're doing a High Bridge run. Everybody knows what's the one of the Bellingham, Chuckanut.
Oh,
like there's all these driving
Chuckanut.
roads, Old Skycomish Highway.
Yeah.
Like everybody knows these roads. So no matter how far out you get, you'd be surprised how many cars you run into, like McLaren P1s.
Yes. Oh, that's right. You ran into what, 2 of them in the middle of
Utah. So I have a photo that I've taken 3 times with 3 different cars with my GTR, my Z06, and my Turbo S, and it says curves next 150 miles or next 100 miles. And it's I stop, pull over. It's out of Fruta, Utah, between Zion and Bryce. You can kind of go this long back way, and it's 100+ miles of turns. It's nuts. And you're climbing a mountain, and there's like, beware of cows. I'll said it once, I'll say it again. It's open range, and they mean it. And I'm going up there in the GTR, just pinned. Like, I'm having the time of my life out here. It was long enough ago. I'm well past the statute. I was booking out there. I mean, hauling ass.
65, maybe 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, plus one.
Yeah, plus one. Yeah.
And I come up this mountain, and I'm thinking I'm hot shit in the GTR, of course. And it's not. The curves are wide and sweeping. It's like if I-90 was 2 lanes wide and in the middle of nowhere and nobody took it. Let's put it that way. So it's just this perfect hill climb. And I get to this straight section, and I'm like, sweet, out of this corner, just got a good speed out of this corner, and it's a passing zone. Nobody in front of me. I haven't seen a car for 20 minutes, and I'm hauling. And I get past, like, I come out of this corner, and I'm getting ready to, and I just punch it. Like, I'm going to go for it, and I get my doors blown off. Doors blown off in my GTR, and I'm full throttle, and it's 2 P1s. This is right when they come out, and they fly by me, just gone. And okay, at the time, I mean, even now, P1s are rare. If there's a P1 in an area, all you have to do is like, P1 Utah, who's got it? And there's going to be like 2 people. And so sure enough, I'm like, on Instagram, I'm like, who's got a P1? I do search for McLaren P1. I look for Utah.
Yep.
There you go. And it's like, hey, and I message Clarence. I'm like, hey, thanks for blowing my doors off my GTR. He's like, that was you? That was awesome. And we met I ran into him at Monterey.
Yeah. Good guy.
Really great guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the little things. It's the towns you go to. It's the little fun things. It's finding a road that you go, okay. We've all done that where you've driven a road and you've gone, okay, I'm gonna turn around and go back and drive it again because we can. We did that. Leg it. Yeah. Well, we did that with the photos. Like I said, we went and had photos on that road, but that's the fun part. I think there's so many little. I mean, and I don't want to bitch about people, but like I call it the car scenario. It's like all these little towns that got bypassed by the freeways, and they're still there.
Radiator Springs,
like Radiator Springs, and you have to
which is Peak
get out
Springs.
there and get out and see these towns because there's so much history there, and it's so much fun to kind of and the locals love having people come through.
Yeah, as long as you're not a jerk, they love seeing that kind of stuff. I went to part of that Colorado trip in the GTR. I visited Doc Holliday's grave. That was pretty sweet. You want to tell the Leggett story? Because that's one I feel like every car person should know.
Which one's the Leggett story?
California, the tow truck.
I forget. How do I forget that?
That was one of the best experiences.
That was that our second year?
Second year.
Second year. So we had decided that we were going to go with Seamont. If you don't know, Dan and I do a rally that we haven't done in a couple of years because life has been busy, from Seattle to Monterey for Car Week. And we changed the route up every time. And we decided, I think, we started, we were going down the coast. We were taking one pretty much.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. And when you there's a part 1 turns into 101 turns into 1, and you get off 101 and you head towards Mendocino, the infamous Mendocino County line that, as Willie Nelson talks about.
Most expensive gas in the whole country, and this is right past the main Redwoods. I mean, the Redwoods is huge, but it's the one with Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
And the Babe the Ox out front, it's just past that. And so if you've done that trip, you know this road.
And so for some reason, and I do not know why to this day, I was leading. I don't know if we had been on that. I don't think we'd been on that road before. That was the first time we took it, because we were going down to stay at that really cool place in Mendocino.
Mm-hmm.
And this road is like somebody gave a crayon to a 3-year-old and then like 14 packs of nerds and said, draw a road. Like it's, you know.
You're not wrong.
And I had my folks in the car that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we were pushing it to, I was pushing it to the point where the other people in the car were comfortable. And we had gotten up to a point where we stopped, and we'd kind of come off the road. We stopped and waited for everybody because we knew the road ahead was coming, because you had looked at it and talked. And there was a guy in a tow truck, a dually tow truck, a shortbread dually tow truck.
Nothing on the back, but yeah.
Nothing on the back. And he had gotten in front of us and took off. And, you know, of course, I have to say this, my blessed mother's in the car going, you know, you don't need to do anything stupid. I'm like, I know how to drive this car, and, you know.
Yeah, we're fine.
He left us, all of us,
yep.
like we were standing still. He had time to leave us. That road is 15 miles, if not more.
At least, yeah, at least 15 miles.
He left us. Like he was dragging those dualies around the corner and chirping them, and I was trying my best to keep up. He had enough time to get to the bottom, pull up onto this ledge, get out of his truck, stand on his truck, and then take photos of us as we were coming out of there.
Yeah.
Like it, and I will say that when you come out of Leggett and you hit the ocean and that goes to 1, you are on the ocean. It is beautiful. We have multiple photos of we always try to sit there and take cars. But like, that's a road where every time we do it, we always say, oh, we should do it more than once in a day. But we're always so tired by the time we get there. It's like, and then it's one of those conundrums where you're in the car and you're like, you have 15 miles. And then the next 15 miles seem like they take an hour to get to where you're going. But it is probably, you start up on these hills and it's windy, and there's just big pines and little pines that are just placed everywhere. The road is 2 lanes-ish.
Yep.
I think. And it's just amazing. I think we've encountered cars coming back at us like once or twice. Like, obviously be careful. It's nothing like, do you remember that road? This is infamous. We had stayed in Mendocino and we left, and we had gone down that road, and they had just painted it. And
that whole road was awful. That was a goat trail covered in pavement and paint. That was awful.
And we had passed that guy that had like a fifth wheel and had gotten kind of stuck. And we had and there were signs, I'm going to be fair, there were signs that said wet paint. And in the road, you just get into it. And there's a gas station as you come back to 101 that we always stop at. It's good food.
Yeah.
And I remember Dan going, hey, have you seen your car? And I go, what? And he goes, your wheel wells are yellow. And I go, what do you mean my wheel wells? And I had crossed the lines and had painted the inside of my wheel wells, which took forever to clean off. But yeah. Yeah, it's wet lines, but it's a goat path. It was a goat path.
That road sucked.
It did suck. It
sucked
on many reasons.
That road, it's like Mountain View Road is what it's called.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I got that road because it was on I got it from an online copy of a book that was California's Must Drive Roads. Okay, it is not. It is like the must not drive road. There are so many different better ways away from Mendocino that I was just like, that road's.
And in typical lucky us, we pull into this gas station. We're working on the cars, and so we're north of San Francisco by about 40 miles probably.
Yeah.
And in pulls the Ferrari drive that had come out of Monterey, and then it was an F50 and F40, and the guy in the F40 came in, scraped the hell out of the front of the car.
Yeah.
I mean, big Italian guy from New York City, didn't care, was sweating like a pig, was laughing hysterically.
Yeah.
But it just randomly, again, we're in the middle of nowhere, and then in pulls all of these supercars, hypercars. It was just amazing. So as I'm sitting there scrubbing my wheel wells out.
Yeah.
It's, it's like you said, the people you meet on this are the fun part. It's
That's why I've never minded going alone. I was really nervous the first time I went. Not because I wouldn't know what to do or I would run out of gas and money somewhere, but just like, I was like, am I going to be lonely as hell? Is this going to be awful? But no, I got to just like crank my playlist, whatever I wanted to listen to. And
making my way downtown.
Yeah, exactly. The whole time.
Absolutely.
Just repeat the entire way and there and back. Yeah.
I see you as a very much a Terry Crews. So, yes. Yeah.
No, and then, like I said, you just run into meet cool people. You get cool stories. And like I said, every time I've driven one of these big road trips, I've run into somebody or met somebody that I've oddly, in some way, shape, or form, stayed in contact with, either just randomly through social media, LinkedIn, or whatever. Like, the owners of Doughbird and Mob Garage Co.
Yeah.
Like
the coffee guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Husband and wife own both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, they
sorry, not coffee guys, coffee people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're fantastic, great people, great food, best stop in Moab for sure, and like things like that where I just like love what they do, so I keep them back. The Kaleidoscope store in Jerome, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
You find weird things, and that's the best part. And I hope listening to this, you're like, man, I got to go get out there and drive, and you should.
We still have the link to Dan's Drives, right? Like that's still
a
thing.
It's on Orange City Supercars.
Yeah. So, if you wanted to find that stuff, you could.
And you have so many more resources than when I first started. When I first started, like, I did have one advantage that when I first started, Google Maps let you use more than 10 links.
Yes.
And now they don't, or more than 10 stops. Now you have to you can use a website that has a hack called morethan10.com that allows you to stitch multiple Google Maps together so you can get more than one stop, but that doesn't help in your navigation as much. But we also, you have things like Rallista, like all the car clubs have started publishing their drives because it's just so much easier to share information.
Mm-hmm.
But there are still plenty of routes out there that are not well known, and I would encourage you to go find them.
So this is, I know very little about this company, and I don't know if have you heard about this new app, 3 Words?
No.
So I just learned about this. I kid you not. I'm looking at it. So they basically put a grid over the earth in 10 foot by 10 foot grids, okay? And every grid is identified by a 3-word thing. So it's like Apple, Jack, car kind of thing. Well, there's no other 10 by 10 square in the world that's labeled Applejack. So you can basically drop a pin there, and it helps people pinpoint where you are and things like that. It's brand new. I just looked into it. I found it out through YouTube, but I was looking into it. Kind of cool though. Like when we want to meet people, and it's like, okay, meet me in this parking lot. Where are you? Like you're going to be in that spot. It's kind of a cool thing.
Huh?
Yeah.
I kind of want to check that out now.
Right? Yeah. I knew you would. Yeah. So yeah.
I was going to say. So far, I'm trying to think. Road Trippers is probably the best tool I've used overall. That's not as mainstream, well known. It was built for RV owners.
Okay.
But if you want to find attractions or what's around you, it's actually pretty popular. And nobody writes more than people in RVs.
That's what I was saying. What's the weirdest thing you've seen?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
In the world's largest frying pan or the world's largest aluminum ball or whatever it is, or.
Put me on the spot. I'm trying to think. I mean.
Do you remember when we stopped at the Paul Bunyan place?
Yeah.
And then went up in the gondolas up into the hills?
Yeah.
That was probably right on my list. Like, yeah. Weird crap. Like.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I found like anything really crazy. There's places I've been through, especially. Oh, I know.
There it is. Okay.
All right, yeah, okay. I had to think about it. I was going to say the weirdest thing and the most disturbing thing I've seen is driving the back roads out of Nevada, out of Vegas. And you don't have to go that far because everything is really far when you're in the middle of the desert.
Yes.
But you run into some of the is this an old horror movie set? Like there is that, and I'm not kidding. Like there's a gas station / Subway / brothel. Like same place. And there's many of them.
Sounds like a Tuesday to me.
And there's weird signs out there that are like hand painted that it's like it's the brothels. It's creepy as hell. You're like, This is where things go to die in many different ways. And it's like
the hills have eyes.
A hand-painted sign like up a dirt road into the mountains.
Sure.
And I obviously am not stopping. I stopped for gas at the one, and I was like, wait, what? And it's like, a line of motel rooms and trucks. And behind it, though, this is where things get even creepier, though. It's not just that. I mean, that is like, okay, that stuff exists. People know that. It's existed forever. But it's like the old campers that they're living in behind it is just, I don't know how to describe it because it's not the America you see, even when you drive America.
Sure.
And I've seen, it's sad in one part, but it's also fascinating that exists so far from anything. Because that stuff's not like.
It seems like something from a movie.
Yeah, it's not something that's like, 20 miles out of Vegas.
Yeah. It's
like, there's that stuff 200 miles out of Vegas in the middle of the desert. And you're like, nobody's here. I'm the only car I've seen in the last hour. Like, you're really out there. And then there you go. Like, you
Random.
think, it's funny because the most remote tavern in the country is in Washington, actually. And it's called the Brooklyn Tavern.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's this little hole in the wall. We've talked about it before. There's a stream that runs through it. And they say you can spit in it, but you can't piss in it. And, their food is literally what the Costco order, and the beer's out of, what they got. And they have like 2 kegs. And it's a fun little hole in the wall.
They take credit cards now, though.
Yeah, they do.
Bathrooms are interesting.
Yeah, bathrooms are very interesting.
Yeah.
But even that, like you look at, it's not that remote. The nearest town next to it is 25 minutes away.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's not that far. So when you think of the world's, the lower 48's most remote tavern, you think that's that. And you're like, okay, it's cool. It's neat that it's a little tourist trap, and it's neat that it still exists. But, you get your 10 locals, and they open when they open, they close when they close.
It's a logging bar.
Yeah, it's a logging bar.
Yeah.
So that's not that weird. But it's like I said, when you're 100 miles from anything, and the only thing that exists is a really, really creepy brothel where you're probably not going to survive.
Yeah, that's not.
You're like, how does this exist?
Because back in the day, it's that whole pass-through theory. In the back of the day, it probably did exist, and
it's just creepy. That's
well,
all
I agree.
I
agree.
It's probably the weirdest thing I've come across, though. It's just like, yes, it's an unsettling feeling. That's all I can say. You're like, I am not stopping here for anything.
Please don't break down, car. Please don't break down. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I've never had a major emergency on a road trip, though. I've gotten nails in tires. Twice. I had Porsche and the Corvette. I both had nails. The Corvette, easy fix. Porsche, pain in the butt fix. Center locks suck. I don't care what he says.
That's right. You had to find a tire on the East Coast or something or where was that?
No, I had I had them both just patched. I've never had to replace a tire on a trip.
Okay. I thought you did. Maybe I'm thinking something.
I'm always really good about inspecting my stuff before I leave. Like really good. That's when I'm the most nervous about things. I'm going through looking at bolts, bushings, everything under a car. And it's not that I won't drive it. Like my Land Cruiser, every bushing was rotted on it, and I drove it back. But it's a Land Cruiser. Like, it'll die when it hits something.
Yeah, but that's still a great story. You drove back with your dad.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Worst weather was in Florida the whole way than Washington.
Florida. Yeah, fair.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, like we said, this is just a little bit of a recap, kind of a fun.
I just want to be able to go drive more. I know gas is pricey, but there's a lot of ways you can cut back. There's a lot of roads that are still worth going to. I mean, like I said, if you don't want to spend the money, camp. Bring a tent. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Agreed.
And it's a great time to do it. Actually, the best time to road trip is as soon as everybody goes back to school in September. You used to get the best weather across the country. It still might snow in Yellowstone. Had that happen once, the end of September. But yeah, most of the time it's pretty good.
If you haven't been to Yellowstone, go to Yellowstone. Let's just say that. Yeah, that's the most important thing. So
it's a once for me. I've been through Yellowstone like 5 or 6 times.
I haven't been there. I'm saying,
if you haven't, yes,
you've got to go. Yeah.
Now that I've been there, I'm like, I don't miss anything.
Yellowstone Glacier. Yeah.
Yellowstone Glacier, great.
Yeah.
I still say Utah is the best parks, hands down by a mile. Yosemite's great. It's ruined by people.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Be careful when you're in the desert. Always look for weather stuff. I mean, because it can be sunny and then flash floods and people die. So.
Yeah, people don't give that enough. I mean, I know we're ending here. People don't think about that enough, though. Like just the other day, it was Capitol Reef.
Yep.
It was in the parking lot. People think like, oh, that's up in the hills when you're hiking. No, like those when they have flash floods there. Get to high ground.
I watched a bunch of those videos of
Freak
those
out.
guys trying to do that. Cars floating down between, and then
on a road.
30 minutes later, it's sunshiny and dry. And you're like, what the heck? So,
I was in one. I had early warning just south of Zion, and I was staying in Zion, but I was leaving, and I did a whole day in Zion and then left and stayed south of Zion because it's cheaper. And I was like, I'm leaving to go south to Arizona anyway. But I was, what was I in? I think I was in the GTR. Might have been the Corvette, the C6. But I pulled up and I went into a hotel, and all the hotels on this road are built up because of the flash flood. So
Weird.
Yeah, so the street's kind of channeled for flooding, and it's a normal thing. Well, out there as you get south, you're in the mountains in Zion, kind of. You're in a canyon, I should say. As you get south, you can see forever across the desert, and you can watch these things roll in. And so it's like watching like what you'd see on TV in a hurricane, where it's just this wall of black rain coming across the desert. And as it came in, man, it was like a foot of water on the street. If you were in the street in a car, you were screwed.
Well, it's not, and especially in the desert, when you could be seeing it rain out there, and the water's coming. It can get to you before the rain does. Actually,
I've talked about that before. I think 10 people died that night.
Yep.
Yeah, a whole family got swept away, and then some hikers in the Narrows got swept away that night. So. Yeah, anyway, if you're
just watch for it in the desert.
Yeah, it's the best place to travel, but just check the weather ahead of time. They say flash flood warning, just get to high ground and trust them, because you don't want to be in that. Even if you think you're safe on a highway, you're not.
Get your car to high ground too.
Yeah, get your car to high ground too. Anyway.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I think we can kind of wrap that up.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, obviously you can all email Dan or I. And
Dan at Avants.
At Dan at Avants or Nick at Avants. And
we'll set you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for this episode of the Avants podcast, I'm Nick.
I'm Dan. And don't just get there. Enjoy the drive.